I feel like this was a fairly sloppy guy, but
I don't think so. I think we did a good job.
we always do a good job. Because that's what we do here at the Creature Popcast. Rough
We
stuff.
always do good work.
Once
Start
again-
over.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Creature Popcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Lindsay.
And today, y'all, I'm going to be honest, I just wanted to be a werewolf again. This is my fault. So if you have followed along at home so far, you know that I draw the episode covers for this. And in the beginning, for the promo stuff, I was drawing myself as a werewolf. The covers are always you and me doing something in the movie world, sometimes Jamie as well. At like Halloween or something last year, I changed back to my human form, and I've been human ever since. And I'm like, I want to draw myself as a werewolf again. So I was like, let's do a werewolf movie.
Yep.
And I started throwing stuff out there, and you picked
The Howling.
The Howling. 1981's The Howling. This is written by John Sayles and directed by Joe Dante, who we will come back to. I love him. We're going to do The Burbs, maybe, or...
I do like The Burbs.
The Burbs is awesome. I want to do Gremlins 2. Lindsay's not sold on that yet. We're probably not going to do Gremlins because what's to say about Gremlins? It's good. Everyone likes Gremlins.
Yep.
But that is it, man. I had a longer thing here, and just this movie is so all over the place. I threw it all away. The Howling has, 7 sequels to it.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah, it's also one of those weird Tremor things. You're like, what? How many? I think I want to do The Howling 2 because its subtitles Your Sister's a Werewolf. I haven't seen any other Howling movies.
I have not either.
And it's probably because this movie is very singular, and I don't think you could quite capture what Joe Dante was going for. Again, this movie's trying to say something fucking dark as shit, and let's get into it.
Okay.
Tell me about The Howling, Lindsay.
Okay, so we start with what looks like the filming of a talk show. And a guy, I don't know who he is, he's about to pitch a book, but we learn he's like a doctor. And he's pitching a book about nature and darkness and stuff like that.
Yeah, human nature and the savages of our past.
Yes. So then we're in an alley where a woman is propositioned and she's like, "Are you Eddie?" And he's like, "No, I'm John." And she's looking for Eddie. So she moves on. And he's like, "You that TV lady, ain't you?" So we learn that she's some sort of TV person.
Yeah, this whole beginning, we're jumping around to a bunch of hustle and bustle of a television station.
Yes.
We're going to producers, we're going to the
The
actual
sound booth,
the sound booth,
yeah.
the show that's being filmed currently. It's all building up to something.
And then we go back to, it looks like Sunset Boulevard.
Yes.
Bad part of it.
Maybe. For some reason, I was thinking New York. They were very,
No, it's
very
LA.
explicit in showing the adult entertainment.
Yeah.
light.
But where they go is in California. It's
Okay.
LA. Yeah. So the TV lady is wearing a wire and she goes into a phone booth with a smiley face on it.
Now, real quick, the TV layer, I'm going to be calling out a bunch of people in this movie.
Okay.
So this is Dee Wallace. Dee Wallace is the mom of horror movies. She's the mom in Cujo. She's the mom in Critters. She's the mom in E.T., which, if you talk to me as a young person, that was a horror movie. She's in the Stepford Wives. So she's all over horror. She's our main character. Karen White is her name.
Karen White, yes. So then we flash to some cops just cruising down the boulevard. They're also looking for Eddie, on the lookout for a
and-
psychopath.
We have also cut to, at this point, a room who is listening to Karen on a wire.
Right.
So there's obviously Karen is out there doing some sort of investigation that they are trying to capture in real time. So the cops are following her to make sure she's cool.
Right.
She's going into a lion's den here.
Yeah, at this point you're pausing. She's some sort of investigative reporter.
Yeah.
And she's being tailed to look for some sort of
Yes.
bad guy. She's trying to catch a killer. Her husband, for some reason, is at the news station with everybody.
This is Bill. He's a main character.
Right.
For sure.
And then the phone rings in the booth, and he's like, "Are you alone? And are you wearing what I asked you to wear?"
Yeah.
She's
this
in
is
purple.
This is a close-up of a gross lip-licking mouth
Yeah.
who's clearly a pervert who's made contact. This is a phone booth. We make sure that we see a yellow smiley face sticker, which will be Eddie's calling card, essentially.
Yes. So then she leaves the booth, and the news station loses the wire.
Yes. So the wire this whole time has been kind of intermittent. I also want to say that the man who replaces Karen in the booth is Roger Corman.
Yeah, I
He shows-
recognized him, but I couldn't figure out who
There's
it was.
a whole bunch of... Joe Dante came from the Corman School of Movie Making, and he cut his trailers. That was his first job. So there's a lot of horror movie alum in this.
So she walks into a sex shop where Eddie wanted her to go, and then she walks into the back, and she's very unsure of what's going on.
I love this because she's trying to be confident, and she keeps catching glances of the porn on the walls. And at first she's rolling her eyes at it, like she's like, God, this shit. And then it's incredibly off-putting.
Yeah, she gets more and more uncomfortable.
The deeper she gets into this shop, the men all in there like are staring at her or like put down their smut and leave real quick. So she's an intruder in this hellhole.
Right. And she goes into the back where they have the movie booths.
Yeah.
And she finds one with a smiley face on it, and she gets inside.
Yes.
So when she's in there, Eddie is in there with her. And he puts a coin in the movie, and it starts to play, and it looks like a snuff film.
It's a snuff film.
Yeah. And he wants her to watch it.
Or at least it's a depiction of rape. That is
it is a depiction
incredibly
of rape.
rough.
Yeah.
It's an excellent scene, though, because she sits down in the dark, and Eddie reaches around her side and puts the quarter in, and the light of the movie is what shows you Eddie's standing there.
Right.
And you don't see him. He's
No, it's just like
completely
a
in shadow,
silhouette.
But it's this cool way of like him revealing himself.
Right. So he's saying a lot of crazy things like how the girl in the film doesn't feel it, but Karen is different.
No one feels anything because they're dead already, kind of. But Karen's different. He's been watching
Karen's
Karen.
different. He's been watching her. And he's going to light up her body.
Yes.
He said that. It's pretty creepy. It's very creepy.
Light her up from the inside.
Yeah.
It is...
Ugh. His voice has changed now, too. It's like getting deeper and
gets
gruffer.
deeper, yeah.
And then Karen like looks over her shoulder at him, and she like silently screaming.
Yes. Eddie has changed behind her.
He
the
has.
silhouette is now bigger and weirder.
Yeah. But we don't know what it is. So then we're back in the front of the shop, and the cops are asking about her. And the shopkeeper says she's back in the back watching a movie. And then we hear her scream, and Karen is struggling with Eddie, and the cops shoot him.
Yeah, it's a older cop and a younger cop. The younger cop just fucking shoots through the door.
Yeah.
He doesn't look. He just hears a scream and starts opening fire. It's bonkers.
It is bonkers.
Even the older cop is like, put your fucking gun away.
I didn't think that the door was closed. I thought that they had burst out and that they just don't show us the scuffle because they still don't want us to see what Eddie is and why this cop is shooting randomly.
I thought the blood was coming from beneath the door crack.
See, I didn't see that. I don't.
Okay.
But that's okay. I mean,
really
it's a
matter.
movie.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
And then the shopkeeper says, I knew I shouldn't have let that broad back there.
Right.
Her fault, obviously.
That is the beginning of a long line of she's bad at this because she's a woman.
Yeah. And then the cops say that Eddie had no weapon.
Sorry, not the first, but just to jump back, there is a moment where Bill, her husband, at the TV station, walks in on like the Kent Brockman practicing his, this is blah, blah, blah for WKSB, blah, blah, just doing his lines in the mirror. And he turns to Bill and is like, that's a brave little lady you got there. And then he changes his speech to be like, in an act of bravery that all of us here at blah, blah, blah commend. It's just like this infantilizing her.
Yes.
Even though she's doing the scariest thing of all, which is being bait for a fucking serial killer.
So Karen's husband comes down to get her from the crime scene, and they ask her what happened in her own words, and she can't remember what happened.
Yeah, she has some trauma that's kind of giving her, she doesn't know. She can't remember.
Yeah. So then we're at home, and we see a bunch of football trophies, I guess, from Bill. And Karen is having a nightmare, which we have frequently. And it's like hard to describe what her nightmare is, but it's a visual nightmare. So
yeah, she's just seeing flashes of stuff.
Yeah. So we go to some new people from the TV station. So there's a guy and a girl that like work with Karen.
They're producers.
Yeah. And they have gone to Eddie's apartment, and it's covered in drawings of wolves and bones and it's people.
Yeah, it's kind of a creepy, serial killer kind of hovel, except all the art's really good. Yeah. Well, and that's not just like that's a thing. Eddie is an artist. These two characters are kind of prominent. They're almost like at times main characters in this. He's Chris and she's Terry.
Chris and Terry. Yes. And they see all these drawings, and they see a drawing of like what looks like a beach scene, like from a hill. And they take the drawings to that Dr. Author for him to profile the killer.
This is Dr. Wagner. He's going to be prominent in the story going forward. They take a bunch of drawings, but the landscape stands out because it's the only one that's not like a freaky werewolf looking thing. It's kind of like a beautiful scenic drawing.
So then we're back with Karen and her husband, and they're trying to have sex, and she's just having flashes of what happened to her, and she's not ready.
Is this the same night?
No. I don't know. I don't think so. I think
time is passing.
Time is jumping. We're not. We don't know. Yeah.
I was like, what a cool husband.
Yeah.
Did you have a traumatic experience? Let's have sex.
I think that it's like the next day or.
It could be the next week.
It could be the next week.
Doesn't really
they don't
matter.
tell us. Yeah. Time is jumping. And then after that little scene where, she's not ready and he seems a little huffy about it, but Karen is back on TV and they're doing her makeup and they put her on the air and she just doesn't.
She freezes up.
She freezes up.
Yeah. And her boss, played by Kevin McCarthy, who's also a big horror guy, is like, well, she's let us down. Maybe it's because she's pregnant.
Yep.
What's her problem? Maybe
and then
she's
he
pregnant.
calls somebody to get some other lady.
Yeah, a vaguely racist thing.
He does say something
calling
vaguely
her
racist.
the Oriental lady.
Yeah.
I think it's for the time it's supposed to be like Connie Chung, who was a big TV news personality at the time.
Right. So then we go to a scene now where Karen is talking to Dr. Wagner about what she remembers and then how she can't remember. And he recommends that she goes out to the colony for the week or two to heal. Right. The colony is a place that he runs.
He runs this place. It's seminars, group therapy. It's very low key.
I wrote that down too.
That's what he says. And it's known when he goes to the colony.
They know what it is.
They just know what it is.
Yeah.
It's his retreat.
So she and Bill, her husband, drive up to the colony. And they arrive at a barbecue, like on the beach with live music.
She's expressing in the car there to Bill that she's not sure about this. And Bill's reassuring her. And she's like, I just hope these people aren't too weird. And it snap cuts to this old man howling at the sky. And this is like a beach, almost like cookout, like a
barbecue.
type of vibe.
There's like a table full of like potluck food, different macaroni salads. And there's half a cow on a spit.
Yeah.
And there's the actual band on a stage. So
yeah, and they're all playing fiddles and banjos. It's kind of a weird vibe because everyone here is like older. I mean, not older, but it's like no one's young here.
Yeah. Well, and they offer the meat to the couple, and Bill says, I don't eat meat. Yeah. And then we go to a scene where an old man is like gumming the meat, and he's like, he can't chew it, and he's really pissed off.
This
about
is a
the whole
huge
thing.
part. Okay, so this old man is played by John Carradine.
Oh, that's John Carradine.
That's John Carradine.
Okay.
Old school Hollywood.
We know who Carradines
started in
are.
the 30s all the way. I'm talking to our beloved audience. From the 30s all the way to the 90s, and 350 plus movies. Had a bunch of boys, most of them actors. Everyone mostly knows David Carradine, who is the titular Bill in Kill Bill. And in a movie, I'm going to do Death Race 2000 at some point, and he's awesome in that.
And his brother is also an actor, but not as well known, and Martha Plimpton's father.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Martha Plimpton is a Carradine.
Right on. Okay. Did not know that. And he is chewing on his meat and his teeth hurt.
Yeah.
He's just like, what a state of affairs that it could get to this.
Yes. So then we flash to Bill meeting a woman dressed like a character from Xena, Warrior Princess. I called her Leather Witch until I learned what her name was.
Her name is Marsha.
I know that. Marsha. But come on, Leather Witch. She's got like teeth on her collar. Yes. She's got boobalicious leather on. She's
Romany adjacent. So historically in American werewolf stuff, there is, going back to Universal Studios Wolfman, there is a quote unquote gypsy element.
Yes.
The Romany, so she looks like a Romany type vibe.
Yes. And then there's a guy in a fur vest staring at Karen really creepily. So then Leather Witch, aka Marsha, is mad at Dr. Wagner. She doesn't want her brother reading his book. He has done enough already. And then they both look at Karen really weirdly.
Yes.
Like Dr. Wagner and Leather Witch, they both look at her for a second.
This is just the beginning of like out at this colony, there seems to be two kind of factions.
Yes.
Two ideas of what's going on out here. She does not like the vibe or the people that Wagner are bringing out.
Yes. So then we meet a woman who's staying in the bungalow next to Karen and Bill.
Yes,
her name is Donna, I believe. Yeah. And she calls Marsha a nymphomaniac. And then Dr. Wagner says, no, it's just not channeled.
Yeah. Dr. Wagner's, this is early 80s. We're just getting into like, energy, hippy dippy type stuff. He brings the like professionalism, like I'm a buttoned up doctor, but the stuff that he's touting is like knowing the inside of you and, just you need to channel the energy to better yourself and stuff like that.
Right. So then we go back to the old man whose name is Earl, and he's walking around looking at everyone, and we see some guy holding him back suddenly because he's decided to jump into the
He
fire.
says, fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah. He
He's
wants
mad,
to end
He's
it.
so mad about his teeth, he wants to jump into the fire.
Yeah. And the doc talks him down. And then that's the end of the beach. So we're back at Karen and Bill's bungalow that night. And Karen is dreaming. And then she wakes up and she hears howling. She tries to wake Bill up about the howling, but he doesn't hear it. She can't sleep, so she starts a fire. And then she hears something outside, so she goes out to investigate and finds fabric. And the noises scare her so much she goes back inside.
That's funny. I don't remember the fabric coming back.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I wrote that down in my notes, and I'm
I
like,
did
and
too,
now
but
thinking, I'm like,
it didn't pay off.
Why was that a thing?
But then the guy in the fur is in the underbrush. So the next day, the girls, so Donna and Karen, are playing tennis.
Yes.
And that's when we meet the sheriff.
Yeah.
And he's come to investigate the coyote that the doctor has called to say that Karen heard last night.
Right. They're addressing her fears,
They
and
are.
they're calling it something,
Yeah.
normal. This hillbilly sheriff is played by Slim Pickens. He was in Doctor.
Great name.
It wasn't his at birth.
No shit.
He was in Doctor Strangelove and Blazing Saddles. He usually plays this kind of hillbilly person.
Yeah. Got it. So then we flash to the TV people, that couple.
Chris and Terry, the
thank you.
producers.
And they're wanting to see Eddie's body. So we're in the morgue. And they're asking about a wolf tattoo that they were expecting to be on Eddie's body. And then the morgue tenant goes to open up the cabinet they keep bodies in. I don't know if that's actually officially called. And the body is just disappeared.
It's a morgue door.
And
Okay, so
the
this
doors
is-
all beat the fuck up from the inside.
This movie covers all my bases. This is another instance of Gurney Buffet,
Mm-hmm,
because the morgue technician sitting there not caring about being surrounded by carnage, it bothers Terry, and he's like, doesn't bother me, it's normal. And it cuts to a tray of half dissected brains and a hamburger with 2 bites taken out of it sitting right next to
Yeah.
it. So we've got, check, Gurney Buffet. And yes, the body has disappeared. Chris said something about, do you think it was stolen? Even though the door, like you said, is
Beat up from the inside.
obviously somebody beat their way out of this thing, so
Yeah.
that's dumb. And then the morgue guy goes, the body's gone, but it must have been stolen. He couldn't have gotten up and walked away on his own, which is always the fact when somebody says that the body
Yeah.
indeed got up and walked away on
That's
his
how
own.
movies work. So then that night, Karen and Donna, they hear cows. They're like walking around in the woods and they hear cows mooing,
I love this little back and forth, and I don't know why.
but they don't sound right. Like Karen has decided that cows don't sound
Yeah,
right.
it's she's like, are those cows? And Donna's like, yeah, there's a pasture over the hill. And she's like, they don't sound right. And Donna's like, I don't know how cows are supposed to sound. And she just looks off in the distance. Karen does it, goes, not like that.
Did they sound weird to you?
They just kind of sound like they're moving.
They
to
sound
me,
like they're
honestly.
cows. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
hear it.
The cow whisperer.
But then the girls decide to go. She's like, Karen and Donna's like, doesn't your husband have a gun? And so they go get a rifle and to go investigate, like what's going on with the cows. And then they find a dead cow. It's been like slaughtered, like his throat ripped out.
Throat ripped out.
So then they run into some cowboys. They got scared from behind, but they saying that a coyote didn't do that.
Right.
So now there's a hunting party. Bill is getting shooting lessons. So all the men have now gathered together to hunt a wolf.
They've included Bill into this, and they're kind of giving him lessons, but also kind of side-eyeing him because he's a city boy who's a vegetarian, and isn't he a funny little not masculine enough for them?
Right.
Even though Bill's a big dude who's an ex-football player and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He's not fitting in with their hunting party, really.
Right. So at some point we realize that the guy in the fur is actually Marsha's brother. His name is TC.
That's right.
And he is like tracking the wolf and they're following him.
He's animalistically, like, he's
Hopping
their
around in the
lead.
forest on with his
He's their
crouching-
hunting dog, basically.
Basically, yeah. So then we are with Karen. While the hunting part is happening, we're with Karen and the doc having like a group therapy
Yeah,
session.
group therapy.
And when she tries to remember what happened, and she still can't see Eddie. Still can't see what Eddie is. So then now we've jumped back to TV people again.
Bill does shoot a rabbit.
That's later.
Okay. It's not, but
It
okay.
is later. I have like 2 paragraphs later of where Bill shoots the
He
rabbit.
actually shoots the rabbit. It's
Oh,
later
well, then
in
he
this
talks
scene,
about
and
the
then
rabbit.
he takes the rabbit to
Okay.
quote unquote leather witch. Is that what?
Leather witch.
Okay, to leather witch later.
Okay,
Anyway, it
fine.
doesn't
He
matter.
shoots the rabbit at this
But
point.
we cut to the producers, and we have a twofer movie moment for me. One, it's basically the library investigation scene.
Yes.
However, this one is taking place in a city bookstore called The Other Side, Occult Objects for Special People.
Yeah. Cult bookstore.
And it is being run by Dick Miller.
Yes,
who
Dick
we
Miller.
last saw getting a flamethrower for our intrepid heroes in Night of the Creeps.
Yep.
Dick Miller has shown back up as the proprietor of this shop. It's this beautiful, big...
It's probably a real bookstore somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 nuns have entered the shop,
Yeah.
and the producers are side-eyeing them, and Dick Miller's like, everyone comes in here. Sun worshippers, moon worshippers, Satanists. The Manson people used to hang around and shoplift. They were dirtbags.
Well, so the producers are asking actually about body snatchers at this time, not werewolves.
It is wild that these producers show up at an occult bookstore to look for books about body snatching because a body disappeared from the morgue.
Right, exactly. It's whatever. But as they're talking to the guy, they start looking at things, and then Terry starts like reading about werewolves, and this is where Dick Miller starts talking about werewolves and how they can change shape at any time, and they can come back from the dead, and they can regenerate. And
For no reason in this movie,
know,
Dick Miller, suddenly Terry's like, maybe werewolves
Yeah.
in. And Dick
well, and
Miller's like...
silver bullets and fire are the only way to kill them. Like, he literally tells them all of this in
tells-
one giant sentence.
He tells the movie what the rules of this are. That these werewolves don't need the moon. They could go whenever. But fireworks and silver bullets work. And not only do silver bullets work, he has a box of silver bullets there that some guy ordered and never picked up.
Right. Convenient.
It's so strange. This is Joe Dante and John Sayles just going, skip to the end.
Right?
Yeah. It's not artfully done.
Okay, so Bill has shot a rabbit, and while he's like walking with his rabbit, he runs into Marsha's brother TC. Bill doesn't eat meat, but gets convinced to let Marsha cook the rabbit for his wife because Marsha loves to cook, and it's a sin to kill something you don't eat.
Yes.
And Bill is like, really like, are you sure I should do this? And TC's just like, yeah, she'll love it. I know.
I mean, what else does Bill think he's going to do with the rabbit that he killed?
I don't know what he was going to do with it. Maybe that's why he was like, what do I do with this rabbit?
Well, this is
Bury it.
this is the path that you're being led down as Bill's transformation happens.
Yeah.
I know it gets very literal here in a second, but it's like Bill wouldn't have killed the rabbit. I don't know why he got in, or maybe he would.
Well, he doesn't eat meat, not because he gives a shit about animals. He doesn't eat meat because he owns a bunch of fitness places, and he's a vegetarian because of his body.
Okay.
Not because he gives a shit about animals.
I guess. Okay.
So that was like kind of stress. Like, I run a bunch of fitness stores.
Yeah.
I don't put that crap into my body. Like, it was not.
I mean, it's meat. It's,
Seems like the opposite of...
it's really
Right?
the best source of protein that
I mean,
you could
there's
have.
a lot of vegans out there that don't put crap into their body, not because
Yeah.
they give a shit about animals.
Of course. This is also, again, a sign of the time that vegetarianism might have been a vaguely new thing
Just
that
like
is being
the
commented on
health
here.
fad.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. So Bill takes that rabbit to Marsha.
In her little witch house, which is, it's a nice cabin.
Right. And then she, like, they're talking, and then she's like, I'm going to cook this rabbit later. And then she basically kisses Bill, who responds, but then he pushes her away and he leaves.
Yes, he's like, I'll make out with you. No, I can't.
Yes.
What weirdos. And
then
he's
he,
still going to let this woman make soup for his wife?
I mean, yeah, okay.
Bill's
it doesn't
son.
matter at this
There
point.
are so many red flags to just leave this place.
Yes, there is.
Oh, yeah, this place is not a good place
Just
to be.
leave.
So as he's walking back through the woods back to his own cabin, there's something in the woods that's stalking him. And then Bill is attacked by a wolf.
Yes.
So he gets back
I
to
mean,
the...
it's a thing. These things
Yeah.
don't look like wolves. They're
He gets
huge.
attacked by a monster.
Yeah. I mean, hey, guys, spoiler, it's werewolves. He gets attacked by a fucking werewolf. Let's just get that out of the way.
He gets back to the bungalow, and then they call the doctor, and the doctor treats his wound, and he gives him a weird injection.
Yeah.
Again, doesn't pay off. I don't know what the weird injection was. And then we cut
I
to...
mean, maybe it's just a rabies shot because
It could have been.
it's
That's
an animal.
that's what they posit it is to us, that it's just a rabies
Yeah,
shot.
I mean,
You know.
he is a doctor. I mean, it's a smart thing to get.
Yeah. So then we are with Chris and Terry in bed together. So now we know they're a couple.
Yep.
They don't just work together, they're together. And they are watching a werewolf movie. Is it The Wolfman?
It's the OG. Yeah,
Okay.
it's Universal Studios.
I didn't know what it was. And then while they're there, Karen calls them and tells them about Bill getting bit by the wolf. And she asks them to come up. And Terry heads up, but Chris stays there to, like, do more investigating for some reason. As she's driving up, she brings a picnic. And so Terry and Bill and Karen have a picnic. And as she's like unpacking, she's like, oh my God, I forgot you're a vegetarian. I didn't bring any vegetarian. And Bill is sitting there like
He's just
chomping,
housing the meat.
like a rib. He's eating a rib. And he's like, I'll eat anything if I'm hungry. This is great, you know? And I'm like, it's just...
She didn't bring a single vegetarian thing.
She did. 100% she did. Because like she's bringing out macaroni salad and things like that. So like
all we got is just ribs and chicken and...
Again, this is not a nuanced script.
the movie wants us to know that Bill
Bill's
has had a
eating
personality.
Meat.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, Bill's eating meat over here.
So then we're back with Bill and Karen in their bungalow, and Bill is reading You Can't Go Home Again. And then Bill is not interested in sex when Karen tries to.
And she's frustrated because they just can't get on the same page.
Yeah, they're out of sync. Karen is dreaming, and when she wakes up, Bill is gone in the middle of the night. Bill has walked into the forest to meet Marcia by a big bonfire.
Yep.
And then she strips, and I'm like, hey, Bush! So they start to have sex. I literally wrote, I can't believe I couldn't see penis here at all. Like,
no, I mean, to be fair,
I rewinded it to see if I could see penis.
Because he's real. I mean, they're real
very naked. Yeah.
I mean, he probably has a little pouch on
something.
Like,
yeah. But you can't show, I guess, penises in 1981.
Can't see a penis.
Penis is
too vulgar.
Yeah, well, penis is still scary. In 1981.
I mean, still scary.
Yeah. So like, there's a whole bunch of howling, and it's like the wolves are celebrating the mating ritual or some shit like that. Who knows? And then Terry is woken up, and she starts recording that noise that she hears.
Yes.
Yeah, the howling.
The Howling. Mm-hmm. Good name for a movie.
So Marcia takes off Bill's bandage from where he got treated for the
So you're not
bite.
going to mention the cartoon werewolf fucking?
That's not here yet. This is part of it. Marcia takes off Bill's bandage and licks it, and that's where we see that Bill has a tattoo. And then they both start to change into werewolves, both of them. And then we flash to the doctor hearing the howling from his office. So then there is a little moment at the end where there's like heat signature cartoon fucking werewolves.
Yes. This is in the movie because they ran out of money. It looks like fucking hot garbage. It is hilarious.
It is so bad.
It is so bad looking.
It's like human shapes with like a heat signature outline that change into wolf.
And it's vaguely vibrating
with a fire
because
behind
it's
them.
Superimposed on the actual background.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's so bad I jumped ahead in the script.
So yeah, they ran out of money. So the next morning, Terry is replaying her recording on the beach by herself. Like she's walked down to the beach, and she keeps feeling like something is off. She keeps looking back behind her, and then she realizes she's seen this scene before. And so she pulls out that drawing from Eddie's apartment and holds it up, and it's the same scene. Like it's the same beach. It's the same.
Obviously, he drew it sitting right where she's at.
And then she says, "Oh Jesus." So then Terry's walking through the woods, and she's hearing her names. You know, something in the woods is whispering, "Terry, Terry." And then we see a building in a distance, and she realizes it's actually Marcia's shack. So she starts nosing around Marcia's place, and she's looking through windows, and then she realizes the door is open, so she goes inside. She's like investigating the common area, and I see a can of wolf chili on the fridge, so I wrote that down, which I thought was hilarious.
I didn't know.
Because also there's wolf paintings. There's a lot of wolf themed stuff in the apartment.
Right.
Is the wolf chili made of wolves or to feed
I think
No,
wolves?
it's like the brand. Yeah, it's the brand is wolf chili.
I was like, I don't think you can eat.
I don't know if it's
I
real.
think they're endangered.
I don't ever remember a wolf chili, but this movie's a year older than me, so.
Who knows? They're being very subtle about it, that there's wolf stuff around. Maybe wolves or werewolves have something to do with
Hey, man, I'm an art director. I look at shit. So Terry sees a drawing on the wall, and it looks like the same artist that drew Eddie's drawings. And she takes a photo, and then we see a smiley face. Same yellow smiley face from the beginning of the movie.
Right.
So she goes into that room, and it's a room that looks just like Eddie's apartment, with all the drawings on the walls and the bones and everything like that. Did she say, "Oh my God," or did I just write, "Oh my God"? I don't know. Whatever, doesn't matter.
I can't imagine the scene blew your mind. So she probably says, "Oh my God."
So she starts taking more photos, and then there's like a banging on the door or a closet in that room. It's like bolted shut, and something is banging from the inside. So she runs out that room and then jumps out a window because something is trying to get out of that. It's gotten out of that room because like she slams the door shut, and then she jumps out a window. As she lands on the ground, her right hand lands right next to a hatchet. And so she grabs the hatchet and crawls under the house.
It's like that scene in One Cut of the Dead where they leave an axe for her. And they're like, pick up the axe. She's like, "Oh, look, an axe." Except in a bad movie.
In a bad movie. Yeah. Okay. So she crawls under the house with the hatchet in her hand, and it's definitely a werewolf that's after her. And he gets onto her shoulder, and she's trying to hurt it with the hatchet, but she can't quite get to it. And I wish you guys could see me because I just acted that out.
It was great.
So then the werewolf like starts breaking down the wooden wall between it and her because he had broken through the wall. He wasn't fully behind her, you know. And then as he breaks down the wall, he grabs her foot, and she takes that hatchet and cuts off his hand.
Yeah.
And then we have this weird scene where the hand starts to like bubble and fold in on itself. Like think Wizard of Oz, like when the feet get sucked under the building and then unfolds
it
as
reconstitutes.
human. Yeah.
It's cool.
So then Terry runs away to the doctor's cabin because that's where the phone is. So she calls her boyfriend, Chris. While she's dialing, we see a wolf hand on a tape recorder.
Yeah,
And
something slides over and it hits record.
Yeah.
Chris is watching a Tex Avery fucking cartoon with a wolf in it. Allen Ginsberg's Howl is on his desk, and at this point, I write, I am so tired. Wolf shit, everyone.
I told you.
And
There's even wolf chili.
I didn't even see the chili. And I'm tired of this wolf shit.
They are just making sure we understand that these are werewolves. They are putting a bunch of subtle things that they think are subtle.
Subtle.
They're not subtle. They think they're subtle.
Not subtle.
They're like, this is a werewolf.
By the way, the silhouette of Eddie in the porno theater is clearly a werewolf, and what attacks...
Well,
we've already seen them turn into werewolves by a fire.
In Eddie's apartment, we even see Karen drawn as a werewolf on the wall.
On the wall. All Eddie draws is werewolves.
And Karen as a human, and Karen as a werewolf.
Anyway.
Okay.
It's called the Howling, everyone.
So we're back to Karen. She wakes up. She has slept all day long. And she was having a dream, but this time her husband was in it, but I can't really remember what he was doing. So he's there. She's telling him, hey, you were in my dream. And he's kind of being a little standoffish. And then she sees scratches across his back. And he says that they came from the attack the other night. But Karen says they weren't there.
Yeah, he's trying to gaslight her.
Yeah, Karen knows he was fucking Marcia. And he's trying to tell her that she's delusional. And then he backhands her.
He fucking hits her.
He fucking hits her.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
It hits hard, and it's sudden, and it sucks.
Yeah. So she leaves to go call Chris that she wants him to come get her and Terry. And he says, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like, is what he says to her as she walks out of the room. And I wrote fucking pussy, but, you know.
He's a cool guy.
So Chris is then telling Terry that, because, you know, remember, we're back with Terry in the doctor's office, and Chris is on the phone with Terry. And he's telling Terry that Eddie Quist is dead. And that Terry is telling him that everything that she had found. And Chris tells her to look in the file cabinet for files on Quist.
How do they know that Eddie is dead? Didn't his body disappear?
Well, but he's just trying to reassure her that
the
Eddie's
whole
dead.
time he's convinced that the body was taken.
Yeah, that's why they were looking for body snatchers, not werewolves.
Right.
It's Terry that is on werewolves.
She got werewolf pilled because of this book that she found in the like.
With really cool drawings in it.
It looks good, but she just goes werewolves, and she happens to be right.
Yeah. So she...
I guess maybe she was looking at the production design laying around this movie.
Perfect.
And was like, I bet it's werewolves.
What a wolves.
There's not pods all over the place, so it's probably not body snatchers.
Exactly. So she opens up the file cabinet and she finds 3 files on Quist. Marcia, TC, and Eddie. So they're all Quists.
They're all siblings.
And
which made me flash back to when Marcia is bitching about the book and was like, I don't want my brother reading this. She's probably talking about Eddie. And not TC.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So then a wolf man takes the file out of her hand.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then slaps her. And so basically they're fighting. They're attacking now. And like they're throwing gurnings all over the place and medical equipment and screens and whatever. And then this wolf man has Terry by the neck off the ground. So like her feet are dangling. And then he bites her. We see a bunch of files on the ground where it looks like the doctor has been studying werewolves. And then they get suddenly splattered with blood. And that's the end of that scene. We flash to Chris going back to the occult bookstore to buy the silver bullets.
Of course, because, God damn it.
And then we're with Karen again, and Karen goes to the doctor's office, because remember, she was going to go call Chris to pick her and Terry up.
Right.
And she sees the mess of this room, and then Terry's dead body. It's on a gurney. She covers it with a sheet. And then she goes to call, but the phone is dead. And then Karen is like backpedaling towards the dead body and then bumps into it somehow. But something else comes out from under the sheet. not Terry's body that was just there, and it's Eddie.
Yes. So this is Eddie from the beginning, not... I guess this is the best look we've had of him.
Yeah.
Not just the licking lips and
Yes.
whatever.
Anyways, Eddie wants to give Karen a piece of his mind. He trusted her. And
Well,
then he starts to dig a bullet out of his forehead.
Yeah, it's cute. It's one of the bullets. That's how he was shot.
It's one of the bullets that he's been carrying around his forehead since he was shot when she originally was in the porno
I
store.
wanted to show you
Now
what you did.
They do mention that, like, after 3 days, you think they're dead, and after 3 days, they get back up. I think Dick Miller says that. So he...
Okay.
Although that doesn't make sense,
No,
because he
I don't
clawed his way
remember him
out.
say that. He just said that they regenerate and that they can't die unless you use fire or silver bullets.
Anyway,
Anyways,
the
okay.
transformation
That's
happens.
what I said. This begins the transformation. I have written down a very nice little thing about how this transformation happens. So
Better take less time than the transformation itself. Go for it.
his face starts to bubble, and his eyes yellow, and then his nails grow longer.
Those are cool.
And
That's
then
cool.
his chest bulges through his shirt.
There's clearly, like, balloon type stuff. It's
absolutely.
rippling his flesh.
And then his teeth elongate, and then everything is just getting bigger and hairier. One of his eyes keeps rolling back in his head.
That's cute.
It's very interesting. And then his jaw elongates like a muzzle. And then his ears grow out of his hair. And his fingers get long and skeletal. And his nose becomes like a snout. And his mouth like a wolf's. He looks like a wolf man.
And it takes 5 fucking
It does.
minutes.
It does. It does.
So long. Okay.
But it was very cool.
1981 is the year of the werewolf. There's a movie called Wolfen that came out that I haven't seen. The trailer looks like garbage. Then this movie came out, and then
Howling.
5 months after this, American Werewolf in London comes out, which, as directed by John Landis, is the beloved 80s werewolf movie.
Yeah.
It also has a very long transformation scene.
It does.
Rick Baker is the practical special effects guy that was going to work on this movie and went to John Landis's production to do American Werewolf in London. His protege is Rob Bitton. He stayed on to do this transformation. Very similar times in the movie, very similar lengths of transformations. I watched American Werewolf in London's transformation last night.
Did you?
It's better. It's
Is it better? Okay, because I didn't remember it being better. But
It's shorter, it's better. Well, this one has really cool stuff, and then it cuts to... It's so long.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
this
very
looks
long.
really cool, that looks like shit. That looks really cool, that kind of looks like shit. This movie is not terribly well regarded, whereas American Werewolf in London is. And you had a theory about it.
No, I do. I have a theory about that. 100%. So, like, American Werewolf in London is, like, younger. It is 2 kids, and they're traveling, and they're experiencing all this mystery and all that kind of stuff. It is more identifiable with the audience it's going for. This movie is, like, full of misogyny and marriage and self-help, and it's really dark. There's a lot of...
Incredibly dark
It's an
movie.
incredibly dark movie, and I can't imagine that the audience they're going for would choose this one over that one, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, it's like, I can see why. Like, this movie is not a bad movie. I have never, even this second watch for me, I did not come away from this movie thinking it was a bad movie. I enjoyed watching this movie a second time.
At some point in every one of our recordings, I call the movie bad. It's just what I do.
Well, it's because it is 120 minutes. Well, not even that. It's a 90-minute movie.
It's a 90-minute movie.
It's a
Almost on the
90-minute
dot.
movie. And you're trying to make something and trying to say something in 90 minutes. And at some point, you're going to do something wrong, you know, and do something bad. Like the animated sex scene.
Because they blew all their money on this transformation
did.
scene. Just cut it down by 2 minutes.
They
And maybe I have so much that I can say about this. John Landis as a movie maker is... He's made a bunch of movies that I like, but he's a fucking terrible person who got people killed while making movies. That is a whole story that you can look up, get into. It's very interesting and terrible, and he got away with facilitating murder.
Sure.
And of 3 people, 2 of them children,
Right.
a 6 and a 7-year-old. But he also is a force in Hollywood. So he got Rick Baker. He pulled Rick Baker off of this movie to make his werewolf movie.
Right.
Now, Rob Benton goes on to work with John Carpenter on The Fog, and he makes almost every effect in the thing. Rob Benton's good.
Yeah.
He's going to win in a special effects off, if you ask me.
Sure.
And honestly, American Werewolf in London, I think, captured the audience for all this. It literally won Best Makeup from the Academy Awards for the first time that there was a Best Makeup.
Okay.
They basically made Best Makeup to give it to Rick
this
Baker.
movie, yeah.
Rob Benton, I don't think, has ever won an Academy Award. He got a special award. This dude worked on RoboCop. He did Total Recall. He did just all kinds of... He has his fingerprints on all kinds of great Hollywood things.
Sounds like an awesome job. Would have loved to have that job.
It might be, except you've probably got these asshole directors fucking up your life forever.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
He was hospitalized for pneumonia and exhaustion after the thing because he worked every day for a year and 5 months, I think the Wikipedia page said, with John Carpenter. Now, he's a perfectionist. He was pushing himself. And if you look at the effects on the thing,
they're great.
It comes through.
Of course. They're wonderful.
It's set a gold standard of body horror that hasn't ever been topped. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I like this movie better than American Werewolf in London because although it's funnier, it has nothing really to say other than... I don't even know.
It doesn't really have a lot to say at all.
This movie sticks with me in
a
way that is unsettling, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
So, cool. We did the whole... that was a whole bunch of special effects stuff I want to talk about, and then you had that thing about American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
You, even texted me. You're like,
I want to compare these two, because for me, I read 4 months between the two. This
Very
movie
small
came out
time.
4 months prior to American Werewolf, and one of them is way bigger than the other. And I feel like it was just where the world was. So...
Yeah.
Okay, back to the actual movie. So this transformation has happened, and then Karen just grabs a thing of acid and just throws it at Eddie and runs away.
Yeah, always good to have a bottle of acid hanging around.
Yeah, open bottle of acid.
Open bottle.
Yeah.
Just right to the dude's noggin.
Yep. So then we flash to Chris at a gas station in his very nice little sports car trying to get gas. He says it's an emergency. And I'm like, okay, what a weird scene.
Yeah, I kind of...
I have a reason for why. There's obviously...
Yeah, but I was trying to figure out the guy, because it's clearly another cameo.
It must be,
And at this point in the night, I was like, fuck it, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1981, Michael, so then...
I don't know what that has to do with it.
I'm just like, we can't get all the cameos, Michael. I wasn't even born yet.
I'm not going in with it again with this.
Okay, so Karen tries to start her car, or a car, because I'm not sure if it's her car or not. But people from the colony are like outside her window and they won't let her leave. So they take her to the barn, and everyone from the colony is there in this barn. Terry's body is laid out like on a table. Even the doctor is there. She runs to hug him like he's going to save her, and he says, Karen, no.
We're wolves. We're all wolves.
He doesn't say that.
Figure it out. He doesn't say we're all wolves?
No.
We're wolves?
No.
I
Does
knew
he
that.
hold up a picture of a wolf?
No, he doesn't do that.
He's like, we're this. Karen.
So,
Yeah, I love that idea. He just keeps putting up like allusions to wolves. Like, do you get it yet, Karen?
I mean, it did it in the movie a lot.
Hey, Karen, do you get it yet?
So then he says, like, Bill is one of them now, and in time, so will she. So Donna tells her a story about how when she was bitten and she was really lost, and how the doctor saved her, and how he understands what they are and how to use it and control it. And then Marcia, she's like, fuck you all. Yeah. And she's like, this is the worst way. We are not supposed to live like this. And she basically overthrows the doctor's hold on the colony so that they can all hunt Karen. And then they start to chase her. And Chris shows up with a gun at the colony. And he goes to the doctor's office and here's the recording of Terry doing her own recording. It's just on. Like, interviewing the doctor.
Oh, this is odd.
It is odd. It's just, like, on.
For the movie who's had so many characters jump to such weird conclusions about stuff, they have to give him these, like, breadcrumbs to believing they're werewolves. And
I mean, he
just
believes now because he bought silver bullets, so...
Right. Like, I don't know why he
And he stopped at a gas station.
He's really slow.
This is my point. Like, we could not have this scene because he could just run and start shooting some fucking
He could have showed up at the barn, but he did not. Yeah. He showed up at the doctor's office. So he grabs some files, and then Eddie smashes through the glass of the door and takes the gun from Chris. And then we see Eddie's face is all dissolved with acid.
It looks great. This is actually
gross.
my favorite look in the movie is him like half... he's like melted Eddie, but he's still kind of wolfy. I don't know. He doesn't have the muzzle anymore. It looks great.
It is interesting. So Chris confronts Eddie. Where is Terry? And then the recording changes to the attack. Eddie keeps calling him Bright Child or something like that, and talking to him about whatever.
Calls him Bright Boy.
And has his little manifesto about whatever. Eddie gives Chris back the gun and gives Chris a chance to shoot him, and he's pounding on his chest like, shoot me, you know. You don't know anything is what he tells Chris.
It's so dumb.
No, sorry, don't you know anything?
None of these werewolves believe that he has silver bullets.
Well, of course not, because they think he's
Why?
ignorant.
If I'm a werewolf, I'm assuming every bullet's silver.
You would
because it's
think.
the only one that can kill me.
Because who knows, they've been around for so long. So Chris shoots him And he moves on to the barn.
Isn't there a moment where he's like, I have silver bullets, and they're like, yeah, right.
That's later.
Yeah, I
We
know,
aren't there
but
yet.
isn't that weird? Why would they be like, yeah, right?
I'm gonna walk through us that scene. Okay, Chris shows up at the barn, and they have Karen restrained from behind. And then TC's like, that gun won't do any good. And then TC starts to change. And then Chris just shoots him with the silver bullets. Yeah. And he's down. And then another man says, silver bullets my ass, and then gets shot also.
Why? That's my point.
And then the doctor's like, they're real. And then he starts advancing on Chris until Chris shoots the doctor. And the doctor's like, thank God.
That's cool. I love that. The existence of silver bullets is more unlikely in this movie than werewolves.
I mean, do you know where to buy silver bullets unless you make them yourself?
Yes, at occult oddities, special people shopping. I don't know what it was called. I do love
The
that.
occult bookstore.
I do love that the doctor is kind of...
He's like, I want this over.
There's a coup. He's been trying to make the werewolves a different kind
Civilized?
of society.
Civilized?
And he has failed, and now he wants to die. It's much like Earl wanting to throw himself in the fire.
Right.
This has...
Because he doesn't want to live like
This
that.
has gone on too long, and it's unnatural
Yeah.
for a werewolf to be like this.
So then all the other wolves start to change. And Karen is with Chris now, and they close all the wolves into the barn using a gun to barricade the door, which I'm not sure where this gun came from. So they grab a gas can. At this point, I'm like, that was a convenient gas can. But then I remember Chris was at the gas station, so at some point in the movie that was cut, he must have put this gas can conveniently near the barn for some reason.
Well, it's probably in reverse because that gas station scene is so like pasted in. They probably were like,
Where'd he get the gas
where he
from?
just randomly got
Yeah.
that. And they're like, we'll do a scene.
Yeah, that doesn't work. But he starts to pour it on the barn, and he asks where Terry is, and Karen's like, well, she's in the barn, and so is Bill. And they light the barn on fire, and then the werewolves are like punching through the walls, trying to get through.
It's pretty harrowing.
Yeah.
You can tell that they were like looking at like panicked animals
Yeah.
for this scene because they were like biting at the walls, trying to like escape. One of the worst deaths.
It
that
is.
could
It's
ever be.
awful. It's
It's
horrible.
an awful scene.
They're trying to get out of this
Very
burning barn.
effective.
Chris and Karen run off, and then
Also, these fucking werewolves can break through shit whenever they want
they
to.
break through the barn. They break through the barn. So Chris and Karen are in Chris's car, and a wolf has started punching through the roof of the car and banging on the glass, and they shoot it to get away. And so they're driving down the road, and they see Sam the sheriff, and Karen's like, literally, stop, that's the sheriff. And so they slow down, but Sam is a werewolf, and he has barricaded the road, and he's shooting at them. And so Chris shoots the sheriff. They get out of their car right before it explodes, because cars do that, I guess, when you shoot at it. And
Movies have told you that.
they get into the cop car, the sheriff's car, and werewolves have now surrounded the cop car.
This was cool.
And they're all like struggling, and they're like shooting like randomly at these wolves that are outside, because there's a lot of them. We can't tell how many. Somebody gets into the back seat, and Karen gets bit on the shoulder, and she manages to shoot the wolf that's in the back seat.
Yeah.
And then we see it's Bill's tattoo on the arm of the dead body in the back seat.
She has killed her husband, Wolf.
Yeah, her wolf husband.
I mean, he kind of sucked.
He
as
did
a
kind of suck.
human
He
also,
sucked as a
so-
human, yeah.
That's what I posit this movie is saying.
Yeah.
But we'll,
So-
we'll get to Mike's final
Shitty
corner
people
here.
become shitty werewolves.
Yes.
They get away. Karen's like,
There's-
tells Chris, we have to warn people, you know? So then we're back at the news station at a later date. And Chris tells Karen he doesn't think he can go through with this. We don't know what it is. She's getting like makeup, and he's like, I don't think I can go through with this. And she's like, you have to. So then they go to the recording of the report.
This is a great
The
fucking... This
news-
ending, man.
Yeah.
I was like, the movie could have ended with them just
No.
getting
No,
away.
no, there's more.
No, this is important.
So, like, the other news anchor is reporting on what had happened at the colony, because the fire and all the murder and all that stuff. And then it cuts to Karen, and she starts making a speech that the producer or owner of the news station is unaware of. She's like, this is not the script that I approved. And she's, like, talking about, like, warning people of what she discovered. And
There's a conspiracy of people that have powers that you don't know about, and
yeah, she's telling everybody what's going on. And then she starts to change.
into the cutest little bunny wolf I've ever seen.
That is not true. I mean, she's so furry.
She's
It
so
does.
furry,
It
and
is-
her
it is-
little nose
It
quivers.
looks like a long-haired bunny rabbit. He is correct. It's just like...
She's like a cutie little...
You know which one's the long-haired bunny rabbits I'm talking about? Okay. And it's funny. It flashes through a bunch of people watching TV. We see the occult bookstore guy. He's like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
And then Chris, he goes in there, and he shoots her.
On
and then
live television.
And then the producer guy's like, cut to a commercial. And so then we're at a bar.
So she knew she was going to change, and she was like, you should kill me.
You can kill me
exactly.
on, yeah. This is
She
all
didn't
the
want to
plan.
be that. She doesn't want to be a werewolf. So now we're at a bar. Okay,
A
It's just
great dive bar. It looks great.
And so we just see this line of people at the bar talking about special effects, and some guy's like, that was awesome special effects, but it's not real. And this other guy's like, no, man, that was real. She turned into a werewolf, and they shot her on air, you know?
And his friend goes, you're plastered, and he goes, doesn't mean it wasn't real.
Yep. And then at the end of the bar, we see Marsha, Leather Witch. She's down at the end of the bar. And the owner of the bar or manager or whatever is like, how do you like your burger? And she's like, rare. And then there's a howl. And then we see burgers frying, and that's the end of the movie.
It's not, though, because there's a fucking stinger on this movie.
I didn't keep playing.
Did you not watch the burger get cooked all the way? Because it cooks throughout the entirety of the credits.
I did not. Why would I want to keep watching the burger
I don't
get
know,
cooked?
but I did.
You always stop a movie.
I do. I
You're
do.
like,
I stop
that's the
before
credits, I'm
stingers.
done.
I don't expect stingers. Here's the thing. In
I
my
sure
marriage,
as hell didn't expect
in
a
my
stinger.
marriage, my husband has trained me to tell me when there are stingers. So I do not continue the movie
is your
unless I
fault.
am forewarned.
I
Welcome to
wasn't
the Creature
expect-
Podcast, also marriage therapy. I am not trained.
I mean, yeah, you're not doing a
therapist.
good job. We're fine, though.
Yeah, we're great. This has been so much fun.
I literally was not expecting one. I wasn't looking for one. It was just playing while I was finishing up my notes. And all the stinger is it cuts to a television that's playing the Universal Studios Wolfman, and the Romney woman talks.
Leather Witch.
No, in the Wolfman.
Oh,
In
okay.
the
Sorry. Yeah.
1941, something like that movie, turns to Lon Chaney Jr. and says, "Go now and heaven help you," and the TV goes off.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all it is.
Okay.
It's a cute little ending.
They said this is a better werewolf movie.
Then rare is the last word.
Again, I get into these episodes thinking I'm gonna go one way, and it never goes quite the way.
Because, like, I am a part of this as well, and I might take you on a different journey than you
You
expected
did
to
take
do.
that.
She derails you. It's your fault. She derails you.
Let's have a fight later.
Welcome to
I
marriage
don't wanna
therapy.
fight.
What'd you think of this one?
I told you,
Dig this movie.
I do. I like The Howling as a movie itself. I obviously hate Bill. But, like, okay, if I look at the movie, and I look at all of it,
Yep.
who is my villain in this movie? Bill. Like, I don't feel like.
This is my. Okay.
I do not feel like the werewolves are the villain. They are just different. Bill is awful. He is the villain.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, this is a big holistic thought that may not come out well, but horror movies relitigate monsters over and over again. I get most attracted to horror movies because the world others people all the time. They feel like they're monsters. I have a shirt that says, "Monsters are my friends." So it's this awesome playing ground of, if you're going to be called weird or different, the normies are going to point at you your whole life. You lean into that, right? This doesn't do that. This litigates what is a monster. And I posit that Dante is giving a middle finger to humanity itself and saying that within us, we are inherently monsters.
We are all monsters.
And we're doing it wrong. Our brutality, our nature should be killing us off because we're a failed species, but we keep getting our prescription glasses and going to brunch and talking about transcendental meditation instead of ripping each other's throats out and being done with it. And we're just prolonging our misery over mimosas. And that's, now I'm in a dark place right now, but that's what I got out of this viewing of The Howling, and I loved it.
Yeah.
It gave me a tiny bit of catharsis going, yeah, maybe we need to just rip this Band-Aid off and call it a day. Give it back to the birds and the reptiles or whatever.
It is a good movie. Like, I remember talking to one of my coworkers, telling him what my next recording is, and then this is an older coworker, and his response was, "I love The Howling." That's a great response to me because, like, I also, walking into this movie, had seen The Howling, and I loved The Howling.
That's awesome.
You know? And so it's fun to, like, see a horror movie make the normal villain of the horror movie not be that. They're just animals. They're a different creature. They have their own needs. Yeah, they're trying to kill you and eat you, but that's because that's their nature. And this doctor talked about this in the very beginning of the movie, about the nature of the beast and the man and all of that stuff. Played it all out for us.
Right. The
whole
idea
time.
is the problem within us is not the wolf. The problem within us is the man.
human part.
Yeah. That's great. That's fun. Joe Dante's whole career is like this, where he has fun and whimsical kind of eye and then gives you a giant middle finger in the middle of the movie. I mean, Gremlins is a Christmas movie, and he burns down a whole theater playing Snow White and has one of his protagonists talk about how her dad died playing Santa Claus and was found a year later in the chimney.
It's terrifying.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this is a fun watch. I think you can kind of get into it. It's so dark at the beginning.
It
and
is.
then it starts playing games, and I'm just like, my brain's broken. But it was a good time.
It jumps around in time a lot. It is kind of a roller coaster because you cannot tell how long has this been going on. Is it 4 days or is it 4 weeks?
Yeah, you can tell he hasn't honed his craft
Yeah,
yet.
there is some failure in the storytelling,
What's
but
actually very funny about
it doesn't
that
really matter.
is, like I said earlier, Joe Dante's got his first job cutting the trailers for Roger Corman.
Yeah.
He was a foreign movie distributor.
Okay.
Also, so he was cutting trailers for Fellini and Truffaut and
Sure.
like all of these people. So it's like these jumps in time in the movies are
like a trailer.
Like
Yeah.
trailers.
Yeah.
He's not able to finesse the in-between stuff.
Yeah.
But that was The Howling. I guess my only question left is, do we have a question from John?
Do you ever identify with the villain?
Here we go. Identify.
I'm not prepared to think about this.
I mean, you were just like,
I know.
the werewolves, they're not really, they're just different creatures.
And
Why
I'm-
are we making them a villain? They're just like,
pretty misanthropic, so I don't really like a lot of people.
Yeah.
What's a good one?
yeah, I've been trying to think of one, but I mean, even going all the way back, like Frankenstein.
Not a
he's
villain.
He's not really, I mean, he throws that girl into the lake and kills her, but he just sort of,
Playing with her.
yeah, he doesn't, it's like when you have a dog that like kills a bird or something, or a cat that kills a bird,
Right.
and you're like, oh, they played too hard. They didn't get that they could just,
I mean, the villain in that is Dr. Frankenstein,
Yeah.
who made a child and then abandoned it.
yeah.
What about ginger snaps?
I see, and it's because of the werewolves on the brain.
But also, like, that's a very, like, puberty movie. It's all about the changes that you go through as a woman.
That is what I posited for this episode. Have you seen Ginger Snaps?
No, but I
You
know about it.
Would love it. I think it's right up your alley.
Aren't there like 3 of
Yeah,
them?
don't need to. Just do the one.
Just do the
And
first
one goes back in time or something?
One
Yeah,
is
one of
it
them
takes
goes back
the
in time.
same actors and has
Yeah.
them do the origins. There was a whole spate of it's like Tremors 4 or whatever, where they do the origin, but Michael Gross playing his own grandfather.
I don't normally, like, put myself in the same place as the villain. That's not something I really ever do, but I could see how, because that movie's all about how, like, your period changes everything about everything and how much of a monster it can make you, and I could totally identify.
It did occur to me the other day that, like, they're like, oh, it's your hormones that make you so crazy on your period. And I was like, have you ever just been in pain all the time?
Yeah.
I was like, it's not
not
it's
just
not
hormones.
even your hormones. It's just that you're being asked to continue doing your life, and you're like cramped up and you are bloated and your head hurts and you're trying not to fucking make a mess on your pants all the time. And I was like, you're just having
A bad day.
like like a series of bad days.
And it happens every month.
Yeah, so people are like, oh, it's her hormones. And I was like, no, it's just if you've ever been in chronic pain and just tried to push through and continue doing your life, you're going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
I have had my hip issue for most of a year, and it's chronic pain. And I've never been in this position before where I'm like, well, fuck this. Like, I'll just be done. I'll just sit here and be done.
Yeah.
That being said, I can't imagine anticipating every month from puberty to like middle age thinking about this and not legitimately stabbing people in the face. It is unfair.
So there's a couple
and
There's a couple things about that. Number one, our biology makes us forget our pain so that we can do it again. Especially women. Like, it does the same thing.
Yeah,
it
I've
makes
heard
you
that thing
forget
about, like-
how bad childbirth is
Yeah.
so that you do it again.
So that women will have like more babies.
And pregnancy is the worst thing in the whole fucking world. But your brain, it does. It's like, oh, you smell a baby scalp. And you're like, oh, I want to do that again because I want another one of these. Like, it's like biology. And it's like, women, it's just like, we are built to forget about the shit that it does to us every month.
you know what? And a man just can't say that. A man can't say
Are
what you just
putting
said, or
words into
I
my
would
mouth?
I would
'Cause
be
I
canceled.
feel like you are.
No, I was trying to get a bad man joke in.
I was like, I think a man can say that periods are painful and that childbirth is hard. I think you can say
I
that.
think you can say that. You can agree
No,
with that.
I was saying you're built to forget the pain is what I was.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
feel like
you're
all
fine
humans-
I
'cause
think you
you're-
could say
I
that
feel like
too.
all humans are built to forget the pain. 100%. Like, when your chronic pain goes away, you will forget.
I just did that today. When I was walking outside, I was like, hey, I just took like 17 steps.
Without
and
pain,
I
yeah.
didn't have any pain, baby.
Yeah, I mean, but
So,
you
look at me
will,
go.
like when it becomes like longer than 17 steps, when it becomes like weeks and months, you will forget how much that hurt, because that is how your brain
Right.
treats pain, because otherwise
That's how you get through.
That's how you get through. Your body knows that you can't make it through life remembering all of your pain. And this goes for emotional pain as well as physical pain, because how much of our childhood traumas do we just forget? And then now we have like where we are aware of our trauma responses, but not exactly where those trauma responses, how they got into our day-to-day lives and what they came from.
And that's what I'm
essentially.
talking about with like the villains and the monsters.
So
Because so many times, horror movies are allegories for other things, but like, I don't know, sometimes we villainize, I'm obviously very much in movies when it's like a werewolf or something, we villainize it, but there is like, you can sort of understand its motivations sometimes.
I think empathy gets misunderstood. I'm an incredibly empathetic person to perhaps a fault, but the empathy isn't one way. It's not like, oh, I feel bad for things that are suffering. I empathize with fucking monsters. My joke that I got stepped on was Jason Voorhees is who I empathize with, because I was done wrong once when I was 12 and I want to kill all the humans around me forever.
That is one that I thought about, because I was like, what was he, like bullied and drowned?
He was bullied
in
and
the
then
lake or something?
left to drown.
Yeah.
While the camp counselors were
Partying. Yeah.
And it's his mom, Pam Voorhees, in the first one that is actually the killer, who is being like, you should have been looking after my son. Anyway, we're going to wrap it. Did we do that?
I think so.
Okay. Once again, you have just experienced another episode of the Creature Podcast. I want to thank our producer, Jamie. You can find her at cherrystreetstudios.com or cherry_street_studios on Instagram. She makes us sound great. I hope she's got her work cut out for her this time. Thanks to Kevin MacLeod for all of our music. All of our art is made by Lindsay and myself. You can see all of that and our episodes and our stickers, our t-shirts, and our occult objects at creaturepop.com. Until next time, thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Fuck.